Hello and welcome to this workshop session as part of the buildingSMART International Standard Summit Lillestrøm 2023. Thank you for joining. My name is Artur and I will be your moderator today for today's session titled bSDD User Stories. We have four speakers today: Giulia Minnucci, Tiina Perttula, Niki is joining online, and Artur Tomczak. The session is scheduled to last 90 minutes, including time for questions at the end. The session is being recorded and will be made available in the replay section of the event as soon as possible. Before I hand over to the speakers, I would like to remind you that this is a hybrid event. For online attendees, your microphones will remain muted for the duration of this session. If you wish to make a comment or ask a question, please use the chat box in the control panel. For the attendees here in the room, please keep background noise to a minimum, and if you wish to make a comment or ask a question, please raise your hand and we'll bring a microphone to you. I'd also like to bring to your attention that buildingSMART is committed to ensuring that participation in the development of standards is unrestricted, and the process for their adoption is transparent, and standards that are developed do not favor any particular provider and are open, non-binding, and accessible to all. Please take note of our antitrust code of conduct. Now I will hand over to our speakers.
Thank you, Ra. Can you all hear me now? I think it's fine. Thank you. You already introduced our guest, but let me just say that this 1.5 hours will be first the introduction to bSDD for those that don't know it already. Then we will have our guest introducing rail and road projects that they participated in, and they will show how bSDD played a role in those. And later we'll have plenty of time for questions. Last time in Rome we had quite many questions, so this time we decided to leave quite a big chunk of time for questions. And we also have some time for the discussion at the end. So please participate in this session. We have some stickers with bSDD if you like it. If you don't like it, you don't have to take them. But I will start with a video that was shared to me yesterday by Yusheng. I don't know if he's here, but thank you, Yusheng, for this video. I think it fits the topic quite well. And can you play it? Ever since, that's what he was about to say. And this is a video from the beginnings of IFC project, and it was taken in 1994. And we've been trying to understand each other ever since, and we now know that IFC supports our workflows, but this is not the complete answer. We still need to go deeper, and this will be the topic of today's session as well. Okay, back to my slides. So some of you have seen this slide already, but for those that haven't, we often struggle with very simple job is to call objects in our models, in the way that people will be able to understand and interpret. So if I just have this object in my model, it's very simple to guess what it is, right? It's not a very complicated pump. It's a very simple object. But still, if I asked few people how would they call it, everybody had different answer. So the most desired answer would be it's an IFC furniture type chair, of course, if we speak the IFC language. But that's not always enough. Sometimes we need to call it, depending on the context, whether we are manufacturer or we are at the conceptual phase, or depending on the region we are based or the language we speak. So there are many names to describe it. And when you go deeper into attributes like material or color, there are a lot of there are a lot of ways this could go wrong. For example, material could be either plastic or it could be polystyrene, or color could be white, or according to the manufacturer of this chair, that was a seashell color. So there are many things that we need to take into consideration, and hopefully the bSDD solution that we will talk and discuss today is able to support you with that. So I showed this slide yesterday. It took 5 minutes, but I will not show the full story. I will just start with the beginning. So if we have beam model and we see inside this object, we can tell it's a beam. So we can edit a label, it's a beam. But beam can have many meanings. So it could be a laser beam, other beam. So if we don't see it, we need to know what's the meaning behind. So IFC schema provides us with semantic definitions of names. So we can see in IFC that beam is a horizontal member, usually capable of carrying loads. Yeah, we can go to IFC documentation. We can read what's the meaning of beam, but we don't need to copy all of this information to our models. We don't need to put it in IFC files. We can identify it with the IFC beam code. But if we want to use other classifications, other dictionaries, we don't have that code. We need to identify it with what we call classification. And without going much into details, every resource could be provided with identifier. In my case, this identifier is a link to a website that describes what this beam is, what are the attributes, who defined this beam, what's the license on this name, and so on. Okay, this is the very beginning. So we first need to agree how do we call things, and next step is to also add attributes to describe this object. In the case of a beam, that could be geometry, like height, width, length. It could be data related to the manufacturer, like price or GTIN code. It could be environmental property, like GWP, global warming potential, and others. But this is not enough. We need to know how this data should be delivered. So we need to know, for example, what's the data type? Is it a number or a text? And we need to often know what's the unit, whether it's a centimeter, meter, or kilogram of CO2. We need to know all of that. And there are many things that are difficult to capture with this strict form. So we need more columns describing this data. So, for example, height, we would like to be a positive number, so it cannot be lower than 0, or a grade can only take one of few possible values, and the source needs to be provided in a specific form, and all of this can be recorded in what we call a data dictionary. And this data dictionary could be stored on national platform, or maybe company-specific website. But today we'll be talking about bSDD, which is the buildingSMART solution for data dictionaries. That is a service that allows to distribute data dictionaries coming from different sources. But we'll get back to that. So we've heard yesterday, I don't know how many of you attended the Fit for 55 session. Can you raise hands? Okay, almost half of the audience. So we spoke about interconnected data dictionaries. And to visualize what it means is, I have this slide showing that the GWP, so the global warming potential, it's widely used in many different contexts. So we use it for products like this table. We use it also in BEAM to say what's the footprint of our products, our elements. So this definition is not unique to beams. And in this case, I took the definition of GWP from different data dictionary called LCA indicators, which was produced by buildingSMART product domain. Product domain. And this definition has its own identifier. You can see it. This is the link in the bottom. So data dictionaries can be connected. We can reuse the same definitions of properties, classes, materials. We can take advantage of what was already produced before, and we also avoid repetitions that could lead to redundancy, but also miscommunication. Going back to our model, because this was just the dictionary, the template, the metadata describing how actual data should be delivered. And going back to our model, when we define what are the actual values, we can reference our properties to reference libraries such as bSDD, saying that, the P stands for profile, and this profile has the code IPE 300, and you can read more if you follow that identifier. So this is, in principle, the idea behind the data dictionary and how it fits the OpenBeam environment, let's say. And now the bSDD. So the bSDD, as I mentioned, is a service for distribution of data dictionaries. And if you're not familiar with the term data dictionary, it can be many things. We also see in bSDD things like classification systems or just simple list of definitions that people want to apply in certain region to describe Rails, for example. So what you find in bSDD are terms that could be used as a reference in your model to provide more meaning to your data. And on the right-hand side, you can see a picture taken 6 months ago in Rome. I see some of you that participated in that workshop. And we didn't use any digital tool. We did it completely with sticky notes, because at the end of the day, the data dictionary starts with communication between people that agree how to call things. And it's not always simple, as we could experience in Rome, but I think it was quite fun. Okay, so I spoke about how the bSDD service provides supports workflows, OpenBeam workflows. For those of you that are familiar with data dictionaries, I can just add that we are applying international standards that tell us how to describe data dictionaries, how to distribute them, share them, and we distribute this information through many different means. We have API, we have integrations with software already. I will speak about that as well. And we also have a search page that you will see. So before we go to the next slide, I just want to highlight that bSDD, unlike IFC, BCF, or IDS, it's not a standard, it's a service. And buildingSMART has a few services. We have validation service, and bSDD is another service. And it's not made for hosting actual project or product-related data. So you don't put there information about your product that you are selling. It's just to agree on how do we structure this information. Okay, going back to the content. So this is example from Rome. So some of you have seen it before. That can be considered a dictionary for describing fruits. So we have a couple of definitions of fruits. We have a hierarchy between them. For example, orange is is also a citrus, and citrus is also a fruit. We have some translations on top of that. So this is what you can also define in data dictionary. We have synonyms. For example, there was a Granny Smith apple, which is called green apple in different regions. And apart from definitions of classes, we also have possibility to describe properties. And I have here two examples. I have a color and a weight, and those properties could be assigned to classes. So we can say that each fruit needs to have a color and weight specified in a model. And apart from that, we can also say more. We can say what are the restrictions on the values of those properties. In this case, a color can only take one of the three possible values, red, orange, or green, or that weight should be greater than 0, and it should be described in kilograms. All of that we can capture in data dictionary and distribute with bSDD. Yes, so I think we'll show examples in a moment, so it will be easier to understand. But apart from defining your own classification, your own data dictionary, what you can also do in bSDD is to show relations to other dictionaries that already exist. You can show not only that, for example, your definition of banana is exactly the same as the definition from, I don't know, from Germany, but you can also, apply those definitions that already exist to your data dictionary, saying, I don't want to reinvent banana, I will just apply the same definition. Okay, so that's about the content. Here is how our site page looks, at least right now. We'll have after lunch, we'll have the update session, which will be more, more detailed. When I guess the second session will be mostly for people that already know what bSDD is, because we'll be saying what are the updates since Rome, and what are the technical updates, and what are the business updates and new features. But this is the search page. You can see there are, for example, dictionaries of bridge definitions. This one is just a demonstration from Artur, and they defined only dozen of classes and only 2 properties. And you can see that if I go to the page that describes what the butter is, I can see that there is a link between the pile and the butter, so that everything is interconnected. Okay, typical use case for bSDD. I say typical because there are many use cases, and some of you attended the IDS challenge with Leon. We see that there are new use cases popping up every summit, but the typical use case for bSDD is that on one hand we have some standardization organization. This could be international, national, or even company specific, that want to show others how things should be structured, how things should be called, what's the meaning of the data, and they can publish content in bSDD. Then we have appointing party, how we call them according to ISO 19650. Appointing party wants to be sure that the data they receive will be possible to interpret in the future, and will be possible to interpret at the time of the handover as well. So they want to use the data dictionary in their project to say, okay, you need to deliver the data according to those definitions, and this can be also facilitated with the IDS standard for requirements that you can hear from the IDS challenge sessions. The third stakeholder, the third role we see is the BIM manager, who can use data dictionary to define actual specification and requirements, saying that, okay, at the conceptual stage of my project, I want to have this, this, and this property. I don't want to have the whole list of properties from data dictionary, only those 3, because I don't need more. But at the next phase, I need to have 20. And bSDD can be used together with IDS for requirements. And I think the biggest user group are BIM modelers, and they use bSDD to pull that information and to feed into the model. And this wouldn't be possible without the software implementation. So this is very crucial. I will show a couple of examples how software implement bSDD. But in short, bSDD provides the definitions of properties and restriction on values that can be interpreted by software, so that the software, for example, should suggest, okay, if you want to classify a grade of steel, you have only those 3 options. So it cannot go wrong. You cannot type manually something else. At least that's the idea how this can help. Last week I've checked, we had 64 organizations publishing in bSDD. If we include our test environment, which is like a playground sandbox, we have 170 organizations almost that together produced 175 dictionaries. And you can see some of the brands behind, but I also checked the traffic, and at least by now, the most popular are IFC, eTeam, Uniclass, and CCI classification systems, because they already have a huge user group. and bSDD just supports their existing workflows. We are in touch with other organizations to have more content in bSDD soon. I mentioned already we have a search page. This is more or less how it looks. In the update session, we will also say what's planned for near future. But what you can see is there's a search bar that allows you to find the definition you are looking for. You can filter the content. You can just look into one dictionary, or you can search through all of them. You can see the relations between links and all of the attributes that are allowed. And yes, I mentioned software implementation. On the right-hand side, you can see a couple of softwares that already benefit from bSDD. We have, for example, here, Akka, Beamworks. We have a prototype of a Revit plugin and Trimble Connect plugin. We have a Plannerly implementation, which is something I will show also in my presentation. But there are many more to come. And as I said, yeah, it doesn't work. The bSDD has the greatest potential if it's used and implemented by software vendors. Since Rome, we produced this technical website that has a live list of software implementations. I think it's a great place to check what software already supports my standard or my solution. I think it should work if I just open it right now. Yes, so here you can see a self-declared list of software solutions that support bSDD. I can filter through different standards and solutions. I just have bSDD selected now, but if you want to see what softwares claim that they support IDS, you can also check that with this page. And I said it's self-declared because we allow everyone to add themselves to the list. So this is not a list of certified tools. This is a list of tools that say they implement our solutions. So yeah, I recommend checking that frequently. Not all of the solutions are yet there, so I recommend, if you are software vendors, to add your solution to the list. I have here one example from Akka, but I think, Giulia, you also have an example from Akka, so I will, skip this one. Some of you have seen already the SketchUp prototype. I like to show it because it shows something beyond the typical usage of bSDD. So I hope it's visible on this. Okay, maybe it's not, but in this case, we have a model in SketchUp. This model is not, okay, let me pause. This model is not yet classified, but the user is now clicking on one of the walls, and she or he has a list of possible dictionaries to choose from. This was done a long time ago, so you can only see 4 dictionaries available, or maybe it was a filtered list. But after choosing the dictionary, the list pops up with all of the possible classes that can be assigned to a wall. So this software already knows that this is a wall and shows that according to this dictionary, which is the Dutch classification NLSFB, there could be 22 subtypes of wall. So there could be 22 different classes for wall. Then the user decides that this particular wall is external and load-bearing wall. I don't speak Dutch, but somebody told me this is the case. And after clicking on that class, the properties from IFC that is external and load-bearing are automatically filled with correct values. So the software gets the data from bSDD and knows that this classification code 2122 needs to be external and load-bearing wall, so it can automatically populate this information in the model. If we now check the values on the left, we see that those are present in the model. So I think this is a great example how bSDD can automate our everyday design work. I'm about to, I need to catch up with a few facts, and then I will give microphone to my guest. So bSDD can be used together with IFC. You can provide classifications, you can reference properties in existing IFC. So all of the technological components are available. We also have IFC classification available in IFC, so you can also browse through the IFC in bSDD. If you have more questions, I think we'll have time, but also you can join the next session on bSDD after lunch, so we can take more. Yes, bSDD also support the IDS standard, so you can use definitions from bSDD in your IDS specification to check if your model is compliant. Yes, this is a very simplified visualization how this works in practice, but yeah, we can discuss this further if you like. And technically, the bSDD just provides the identifiers that could be also coming from different platforms. It doesn't have to be from bSDD. That can be filled in the IDS schema file. Okay, I wanted to show the Plannerly example. I don't know if you want to. Okay, maybe I can show it on my screen. I think it works now.
With sound or
without the sound? Okay, so this is a video from Plannerly. Yeah, they are not here today, but they show how they implemented bSDD, and they don't touch the IFC model. They just use bSDD to make better requirements, better documentation. In this case, Clive is presenting that normally people were just typing what are the requirements, what properties they want to have, but this was really prone to human errors. So now with bSDD, they have this option to select the dictionary they want. In this case, I think they go for uniclass, and they can also select different dictionary for properties. Yeah, in this case, they go for IFC 4.3. And now, if they go back to defining requirements, user still can type something custom, but is it stuck? Yes, it's stuck. Sorry. But now the software is suggesting what are the possibilities, what are the available options. So now, after connecting to bSDD, after typing a wall, you see that there are only those possible options, and you cannot make it wrong. And that was the Plannerly example. For those of you who are interested to also create their own data dictionary, you can use our templates. We have JSON and Excel template, or you can use third-party tools that are integrated, such as CoBuilder, Semantics for Beam, AsBeam, bSDD editor, and hopefully more in the future. We have all of the technical documentation available. You can find it on our website if you go to the bSDD landing page, so I'll not go into details. After you have your data dictionary prepared, what you need to do is you need to just fill this form, and it doesn't cost anything. You can publish your content for free in bSDD. So after you fill this form, we'll just review this and give you access to publish in bSDD. And then you can do it through those tools or through our management platform. And as I said, it's for everyone. It's for free to publish publicly. There are many ways to do that. And I would like to just finish with a couple of takeaways. So bSDD is a service that was meant to provide to provide support to our workflows to improve data quality. That's the main thing we want to focus on. It also helps as a byproduct to distribute knowledge globally. So you can share your local good practice with rest of the world. You can provide translations to those as well. And it helps to connect our siloed knowledge and bring it to the more international audience, which is also, I think, very interesting, especially for my field of interest, which is sustainability and circularity, because we need to speak common language if we want to, for example, reuse products in the future. And I think that covers most of this. I would like to also say that bSDD bSDD is platform for you. So we, as buildingSMART, we don't own the data. You own your data, and you can do whatever you want with this data, and you can benefit from it from day one. So if you have more questions, we can take it after this session. But now I would like to invite Giulia to the stage, Giulia Minnucci, who will tell us a bit about the experiences from implementing bSDD in Italy on Rail project. Thank you.
Yes. Do you want to...
Yeah, thank you.
Good morning, everybody. As you said, my name is Giulia Minnucci. Thank you for introducing me. I'm from Italy. Let me see. Yes. And I will be talking to you about the user experience we had with one of our clients, RFI, using IFC 4.3 with bSDD for the railway domain. Just a brief introduction about who we are. I'm part of a team of people that have varied backgrounds and experiences, and we normally provide engineering services, but also standard-based technologies for data modeling. And we're mostly focused right now on consultancies for some clients, and we help them to basically define and implement a digitalized strategy that is based on interoperability. Sorry. So we help them to focus on their services, their processes, and everything that is connected to, let's say, process optimization and reengineering. One such client, for example, is RFI. I don't know if many of you know of RFI, but they are basically the major infrastructure management company for railways in Italy. Basically, they are part of a bigger group, which is the National Railway Company. But this group has different organizations within, and one of these organizations is RFI, which is focusing mainly on the maintenance and the management of the railway infrastructure in Italy. And then they have other organizations. One, for example, is focused more on designing the railway infrastructure based on RFI's requirements, for example. So RFI has been very active regarding their interoperability and open BIM strategy since 2018, when they first joined the railway room, which is now the railway domain, I guess. And since then, they've been participating in the railway projects. So, for example, IFC Rail projects, but also they've been focusing internally on developing their own open BIM strategy. And as you know, for a big company, especially a public one, it takes a lot of time, because there's change management issues going on and people that are resistant to change. But their strategy mainly focuses on these four major concepts. One is culture, of course, because you have to change people perception on the things you want to implement. So, for example, they've been delivering internally the basic foundation program that BSI provided. And they've been involving more and more people in, for example, railway projects internationally. And their strategy was to not have the same team all these years, but just to rotate a bit the people so that they could, at the same time, have different competencies within the company. Another focus point is processes, of course, because they are redesigning and analyzing their processes to make them more compliant with Open BIM standards. So together with them, we're focusing on workflows, identifying the activities in the workflows, the roles that are needed, competencies that are needed for these maybe extra roles or extra activities that they're implementing, and also trying to figure out which is the best training program to get the people to that level of competency that they need. And then the other two areas of focus that you can see is how they adopt technologies. So, for example, they had a basic tool set at the beginning, right? Very standard, very local, but now they have to expand. So we've been working for them, for example, in focusing on CDs, which is very important for them, especially for managing tenders and contracts with suppliers, because until now they were using the platforms of the suppliers. And of course, as you well know, this is not good for long-term management of data, of course. And now this was also realized by the national government that basically put out this year a new, let's say, guideline, but it's more like legal guideline where the CD has to be the appointing party and not the appointed party. So RFAE has been working on this. We've been developing with them a list of functional requirements that they are using for software scouting to make it as neutral as possible, of course, the choice of the software. These requirements sometimes come from some railway projects that are done internationally. I don't know how familiar you are with the IFC railway projects that's been going on these past few years, but with the new one that they are probably presenting right about now, they were focusing on some use cases, and from these use cases, RFI was able to take home some software requirements to put in their documentation. And of course, all of this is being based on IFC 4.3 files because this is the railway standard now. The last focus point was data management. They have to rethink how they manage their data. So they've been working on expanding their data model. They've been working on creating a libraries of objects, which is going to be a long process, of course, because they can create some standard libraries now, but then those libraries will have to be implemented and extended as long as they have numerous contracts with different suppliers, even though they do have standardized objects. So more or less now they're giving requirements for suppliers to design and model those objects so that they can then put them in their own library. And of course, this means connecting again to processes because libraries need to be managed long-term. And they are mapping all of their assets in IFC 4.3, which is also very helpful for the new contracts. So as you can see, they're working on procedures and standards, and they are testing this on proof of concepts and pilot projects right about now, because we are hoping to get a return of experiences from these pilot projects to make the processes better, so in an always continuous improvement idea. Okay, why we thought in those pilot projects of experimenting with the bSDD. As I said before, they have a data model. Specifically, RFI has a data model and is mostly focused on the maintenance aspect of the definition of their assets. But they do have a wide variety of assets, right? And sometimes this data model is not always precisely what they get from the models in IFC from their suppliers, because, for example, part of the data model is for their maintenance processes, not the specific object that is the sleeper, but maybe they are interested more in the segment of sleepers because that is what their ERP is managing. So they have to rethink this, right? But also they need to map all of this in IFC to enable the suppliers to actually give them the information that they want. And they want this to be contractualized and as clear as possible. So they will be using the bSDD to help the supplier in mapping their assets to IFC and in understanding the definition of what one of their assets really is. And they don't want to do this in Excel or any other, let's say, automatically useful tool, because it's creating a lot of, right now, tensions in the contracts. So with this, they will be able, together with the IDS, of course, to specify also the level of information need inside the contracts. And they're hoping that this will enable them to have, let's say, a more clear validation process later on, because if the requirements are clear, contractualized, and, written specifically, then that means that there's no, let's say, arbitrary validation later on the model that they're getting. And this is a huge problem because as of now, they've been getting models that, even if it's maybe the same infrastructure line, but maybe developed in different parts during the years, even if the assets are mostly the same, they don't have the same definitions right now. And they don't even have the same geometry. So that is a huge issue when they have to get the data inside their databases, right? And they want to integrate this, of course, with CDs for their information management purposes, and the CDs will be integrated with the ERPs. So classification is the basic foundation of all this process that they're putting in place. So let me get more into what is going on. We started from their data model. They have a UML data model of all their assets that I will not go into much technical details, but it's basically structured like this. They have a main domain with all the assets defined in a management and maintenance logic. And then this model is structured in subdomain packages. Each subdomain has a list of assets classified with standard properties that they need for their management purposes. So you see each domain, each sub package has asset classification and properties classification. This is mostly how it looks in the tool that they're using for UML modeling. So what they needed was an approach to like transfer this knowledge to a dictionary that could be used openly. And the approach that we developed was mainly this. Firstly, map everything in IFC and include the mapping in their data model, which is called information map. Then try to automate the export from this data model to the JSON format, which is the format that we decided to use for uploading the dictionary in the bSDD, because Excel it had like 24,000 lanes, too many to manage properly. And then, of course, upload this dictionary on the bSDD and see if it was correct and if everything matched. So I will briefly tell you what we did. We started from the sub-packages where there is asset classification, and for each asset, we tried to find the corresponding IFC entity. Sometimes the match was not really one-on-one, because again, they had assets such as segment of sleepers, whereas IFC has sleeper. So we had to find a way to map this, for example, in groups and systems. So some assets were actually spatial elements, some assets were actually elements, some other were assemblies. And that, the concept of assemblies was really, really difficult to get through with the main experts inside RFI, because for them it was a totally different concept from the one of IFC. So we had also to train them on how to map IFC, in IFC all their assets, how to navigate the IFC specification, because there is actually no guideline on how to navigate it, right? So this was basically the longer part of the work. But we were able to do that and to include in some tags inside the UML model the exact mapping with entity and predefined type. We tried to do this also for some standardized properties. And then some technical experts developed a script inside their UML modeling tool that basically was based on the logic that we developed to map the contents of the data model with the structure of the data model for the bSDD. For example, it seems quite stupid to think about it, but what for bSDD is the code for the data model of RFI was the name. And if we didn't do this match, then we wouldn't be able to actually transfer the knowledge to the bSDD, right? So this also was done in quite long workshops with them, where we sat down and tried to match every single part of the structure of the data model to the bSDD. And then the IT guys developed this script that also embedded a logic for, let's say, to update this data dictionary over time. I will not go into detail of the script because firstly, I'm not that technical, and secondly, it's boring, so I will go on. Then we finally uploaded this on the test environment of the bSDD. I'm not sure how public the test environment is, but
it's public available, but yeah, the actual bSDD is the recommended.
Yes, but just a question. I mean, if they go into the test environment, they will see all the weird tests that we did.
If it's still there, yes, but it will have a preview stamp on it.
Okay, preview stamp on it. Okay, so if you're curious, you can actually go and see it. But please keep in mind that we did multiple tests, so that's not really very useful right now. So we used the test environment to upload this, and then we devised 2 strategies to check if the content was actually coherent with what RFI needed. So the first check was done manually. We checked every asset, every definition to see if it was matching the data model. And also we checked if the link with the IFC entity to the IFC data dictionary was working quite well. And then we developed a query to do this automatically, but the query has some limitations for now. It can only check the count of assets and some, let's say, some standardized part of the definition to check if it's coherent. So it's not as advanced as we would like, but still working on that. So this is the approach. We had to see if it was working in a different environment, such maybe a CDE that uses an add-on for bSDD, because we needed to show the managers that it was useful, right? Because otherwise you always have these nice proof of concepts and these pilots, and the technical guys are always very excited about it, and then they go to the manager and they don't know how to explain it. So we took one of the, since this happened basically last year during the IFC, in contemporary with the IFC Rail projects, we were able to get one IFC 4.3 file that was created by one of the software vendors within the RFI storyline that was tested during the IFC testing phase, the IFC Rail, project testing phase. We uploaded this file on a CDE that was available at the time, and it was the ACA tool. And we tried to classify one item, one object inside the model according to the RFI test dictionary. So I will show you the brief video. Let's see if it works. Yes. So we selected the rail, and then we went to the add-on for the bSDD. I don't know how clear the screen is, but then there you can see that we selected the test environment, not the working one. And then the second line over there is selecting the dictionary that you want. We had a lot of dictionary in the testing environment, but then we selected one of the two tests that we did for RFI. From there, they should upload basically all the assets that were in the dictionary of RFI. You can see a code that is coherent with their data model and the Italian name, of course. And then we selected what is called binario di corsa for them. We added it to the object. So now you can see that this classification has a list of standardized properties, and we could actually input also the value for the property that they wanted. And then after that, we go back to the object properties to see if it worked. And then among a long list of information and data that you find in the CD, there is also there somewhere, yes, the RFI classification with the code, the name, and some properties attached to the object. So it worked, and they're all happy about this, thankfully. So then you can also go on the search page of the bSDD to see if you can find the asset. So we wrote Binari di Corsa because that's the Italian name. And then you see all the information about this asset, the link to the IFC entity to which it was mapped. And that's mainly it. I don't know why it went all black. Yes, okay. So what were the takeouts and the advantages of this approach? Okay, first and foremost, bSDD has open APIs, so whichever software vendors wants to implement the add-on, they can actually do it. And it's good also for companies like RFI, because that will mean they will have a variety of softwares to do this. And also they will not limit competition in the market between their suppliers. Also, the approach is open beam based. We used the bSDD somehow to extend the IFC use without having to extend the schema, because that is not sustainable in the long term. And also, as someone mentioned to me yesterday, yes, it's important to have the IFC entity, but it's also important to have the local name for that object, because not many people will understand what an IFC, I don't know, track element dot sleeper is. You know, they want to see binario di corsa, which is understandable, I guess. Also, it's automated, because with this approach, we have the script that can export the data model with all the information for the bSDD automatically. And whenever the data model of RFI changes, which will not happen very often, but it will happen, then they have a way to update also their data dictionary. The versions will be different. So there will probably be multiple versions of the data dictionary in the bSDD, because they will use this in contracts. So if anything changes, they need to have the different versions still online, because the contracts will span among maybe like between 2 to 10 years. And if something changes in those 10 years, they need to be able to open that. Also, it's replicable. I mean, anybody can do this, so it's not really just RFI focused. And also, it's innovative because we were using IFC 4.3, so they were really happy about it. So what's next? We did this on a portion of the data model because it's very, very big, as you can imagine. So now they are mapping in IFC all the rest of their assets. They want to keep this for the moment with a focus on maintenance and management, not designing. That will come later on. And of course, they want to use IDS now for the earlier phase of specifying which properties they want for which phase and which uses. So hopefully, by the end of 2024, they will have their data dictionary in the not test part of the bSDD, and anybody can consult it. Yes, that's it. Thank you. Questions later, right?
Thank you so much, Giulia. And yes, we will do questions after the third presentation. So now I would like to invite Tiina Perttula from Finland, from Rambo, who will be presenting together with Niki from, who's online, who couldn't come today, also from Rambo, right? So yeah, the stage is yours.
So maybe I start while waiting the presentation to come here, because the presentation is going to give by Niki today. But I say a few words here in the beginning. I'm Tiina Perttula, and I have been part of this bSDD program, you may say so, in the Finnish Transport Infrastructure Agency, which is the client organization in this kind of user story, or bSDD user story. But the user in this content, like Artur said, that there is a different type of roles who are going to use the bSDD. The user in this case is the BIM modeller user, but we call them designers because designers do actually the design work and create the models at the same time. So we were testing actually that how the user, the designer, use the content from bSDD to reach the models with the information that the client organization, the appointing party, required. And in this case, the appointing party is FTIA. We have also created some domains in the test environment that also includes the classification system in Finland that is used in Finland. So in this case, one role is also these associations who owns the kind of the who has the ownership for the classification system. So before we could test this kind of use case in bSDD, that the user is actually the designer, we need to create first the content inside the bSDD, and we have been testing create the content in a few different structures even, to make sure that what should be the best possible way to the end user in this case. And the end user is, sorry to highlight, the modeler, so the designer, so which is the easiest way for them to utilize the content through bSDD. Also, this related to IFC 4.3 because that's coming to the infra as well. And we also wanted to test the ideas about the workflows for the future. So how maybe the workflows even will change in the future if we can utilize the content through bSDD easily to reach the data models. And even though the user were mainly the designers, we also test the idea for the contractors that how they could reach the models with the information in the construction phase, we kind of, because the designer put some data to the models, but in the construction phase, the information get more detailed. So what could be the workflows to reach the data models with the information in the different phases in the life cycle. And of course, we wanted to test also bSDD kind of with the help only to manage the information better, because I think it's quite a usual situation in the owner organization that those data requirements are coming from quite many sources, and the management of the data requirements can be very heavy task and manually done. So kind of what kind of data management processes there should be in the future. So we kind of covered many aspects during this testing program, but now in this presentation we are focusing for the end part of the testing. So how to utilize the content from bSDD in the design phase and done by the BIM modelers as aka the designers. So Niki will now give the presentation that goes more detailed to this testing phase. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Tiina. I am Niki Tapper from Rumble, Finland. I'm working as a BIM developer. It's good to be here even remotely. So yeah, let's get started. So I'm presenting, Tiina had a good summary about the ideas and needs behind this development work done to Finnish Transport Infrastructure Agency. So before we see the testing and the result of the software testing, let's see the timeline of this development work done in FTIA. So there is 5 different phases so far. The phase 1 was started in 2021, and the idea behind of this phase was to test bSDD as a data delivery platform in FTIA's needs, or the data content of Finnish Transport Infrastructure Agency. And bSDD was tested with rail content. There was 2 different classification and their properties. The next step was phase 2. We took more these rail classifications to bSDD and got more comprehensive understanding about the bSDD itself. And the big part was this phase 3. It was a comprehensive investigation and testing how data structures accordance to FTIA's needs and specifications could be created in the system. Also in this phase, the FTIA's road domain was created. And now we are in the phases 4 and 5, where the main thing is to test these designs of traditionally used design softwares in Finland, how they can utilize bSDD and the possibilities to utilize bSDD in the near future. And also in the phase 5, one more domain was created for FTIA's Bridge classifications and properties. In the bottom right corner, you can find these 2 domains. If you want to check the data, what is in the FTIA's domains, and road domain is only in Finnish, but in rail domain there is also English translations for some of these classifications, and more are coming during this spring. But yeah, you can check the data contents from these links. So the software testing itself, what were the objectives and how was the software testing done? So the goal of the software testing was to determine how the bSDD system and its content can be utilized in creation of BIM models and enriching their data content within current design softwares. And the testing was done in 2 different phases, or it was divided in 2 different phases. The one was concrete software testing conducted by designers, and the second one was research work that involved exploring design software's capabilities to leverage the bSDD system. And in this part, we collaborated with software vendors and representatives. And there is few things to consider. The testing was done with current software versions, and it's acknowledged that software functionalities may evolve rapidly even in the short term. And the second one was this research work that is good to take consider that the significant aspect of the testing involved evaluating the functionalities of the software believed to have a significant role in generating and enriching BIM models through bSDD in the future. So we focused heavily on these software functionalities to implement user-defined data to design models and export this data in IFC and also in development libraries and API interfaces offered by different softwares. And the tested softwares in this development work were the Autodesk Civil 3D, Bentley MicroStation and OpenRoads, NovaPoint and Quadri, and also we tested these Akka softwares, USBIM Editor and USBIM bSDD. These have been already bulked up in the previous presentations, and it's good to know that the idea behind this Akka is that it's intended for enrichment of data. So you have to make the traditional design in some other software. So you have a geometry where you can add this data from bSDD. And tested classifications or structures where a traffic sign base course culvert pipe, rail switch and green areas. The idea was that we have a different kind of objects or structures with different kind of geometry, like surfaces and objects and lines and so on. So the software testing, what we tested and what we tried to figure out, there was 4 key parts and 1 plus thing to figure out. But the first thing to test is the bSDD system and its data content directly usable in design software. The second one was that do the software offer development libraries and interfaces for custom tool creation. The idea is that if there is not direct tools in design software, you are able to do your own. The third test question was or the aspect to test was, is there an ability to add and link user-defined data in the design material? And basic idea behind is that if the architecture of the design software allows designer to implement or link this rich user-defined data to design models, then we can assume that maybe in the future this bSDD part is might be quite straightforward to implement in the design software. And the fourth part was, is it possible to export these models or created models with user-defined data in IFC format? And additionally to these 4 parts, we also had interview with the designers, how might the bSDD system change the current design processes and BIM model creation. And the key findings from testing design software, none of the tested design software currently includes ready-made functions or features for utilizing bSDD. Akka is a different thing, but as mentioned before, it can read bSDD straight from the box, but there is it lacks the traditional design functionalities. So you have to make the geometry design, for example, in some traditional design software. Some design softwares, however, offer the possibility to create custom tools within the software, enabling the utilization of the bSDD system and its information even right now. This has been tested with Civil 3D and tool that has been made on Civil 3D to read bSDD data contents. All design softwares, in all design software, it was possible to add this user-defined data to design models. And all the tested softwares can export this user-defined data in IFC. And all have a support for IFC 4.3, but there is some variation between the softwares in the like a quality of the IFC export. And the integration of IDE specification and how it is potentially used together with bSDD system is also likely tested with this homemade tool in Civil 3D. So we had some testing how to diverse the data from bSDD with these IDEs. And one thing to consider is Akka software. It was pretty interesting to test this out. So it gives an alternative opportunities alongside these traditional design softwares. So the idea is that you design or make the model, geometric model in some other software, and you with Akka, you can enrich the data contents via bSDD. We also made this testing software matrix where we have wrote down the test results by softwares. So there is these same 4 testing questions or tested things, and it's divided between the tested softwares. I'm not going too deeply here. I'm sure you can get the dias after the show or the presentation, but we made this 1 to 3 different ranking and wrote down the main things considering these testing questions. And it's good to acknowledge that between the green one and yellow one, there is really not maybe a big differences. It's mainly ranked, for example, is it these user-defined properties harder to add to design model in some software, so on. But yeah, these are the same results presented by software. And it's good to know also that for IFC files, we only tested the possibilities to export these user-defined properties. And we didn't test or consider how these IFC models should be made technically, or what is the technical structure of the exported IFC, like IFC entities and stuff like this. And we also, these 3 are the traditional design software used in Finland, but we also have Akka software in the same matrix. It's separated from these 3 other softwares. We had also this conversation with the software representatives and vendors. At the start, it's good to know that these VFs and things presented here may not necessarily reflect the official stance of the software vendor or result in the specific actions. But during the discussion, all participants participants acknowledged that potential of bSDD or similar tech as distribution channel for standardized information or data. And they saw that bridging bSDD in the design software requires real demand and broad user base. The idea is that it's not maybe too ideal to implement this tool in the design software if there is no users yet. Another thing was that to optimize its use, especially for enhancing IFC formatted data, substantial standardization and specification efforts are needed. And in the discussions, it was also noted that implementing the bSDD system in design software is feasible, and various integration ideas were discussed, including its potential use alongside other software functionalities and components. And during the discussion, several challenges were also brought up, with particular emphasis on potential future fees. As Artur mentioned, the bSDD is free to use, at least now, but does this change maybe in the future? Who knows? Or this was the thing that software vendors brought up. Also, the data management, how should changes and versioning be done in bSDD? Is it the live connect or on bSDD from design software, or does the design software download the data, for example, once in every 6 months or so on? And also the big question was that there is many different stakeholders and many different needs. So it's a big picture to it's a big thing for the software vendors to offer them all things that they need. We also had these discussions with designers, and we wanted to know ideas from them how this bSDD and standardized data that it contains can change the current processes and current design processes, and what are the pros and cons in bSDD if you ask from the designer. The biggest thing that was brought up was that client requirements and needs are consistently clear and well defined, and process automation and tool enhance the efficiency and reduce the errors. bSDD also facilitates and streamlines model-based design processes and data transfer. And the big thing was also that the system can also be used in the traditional design material preparation instead of these IFC BIM models, such as traffic sign design and creation of associated sign tables. So the summary, current versions, the testing result summary. The current version of design software do not have direct support for utilizing the bSDD system. However, software allows, or some software allows the creation of custom tools enabling immediate utilization of the bSDD if needed. bSDD can be implemented in design software. The core functionalities and architecture of the all tested software enables the addition of rich user-defined data to produced models and their export in IFC format. And critical factors for successful bSDD integration in design software include a genuine demand, a wide user base, and extensive standardization efforts. And big thing, as said before, bSDD can also be utilized in traditional content production. This came from designers as well as from software vendors or representatives. The key is the ability to digitally share and distribute data and data requirements. At this point, we have these data requirements presented, for example, in PDF or Word documents. So this is big thing, like we are coming to this century and not living in the 90s anymore. And the bSDD system and its standardized content enable, among other things, clear and machine-readable client or organization-specific data requirements and needs, more efficient and higher quality processes, automation of processes and the creation of new ones, reduction of errors in the processes, and higher quality production of deliverables, so on, so on. There is a huge amount of possibilities and benefits in the system like bSDD and in the standardized data that it contains. Thank you. That was my part of presentation.
Thank you, Niki. We have 10 minutes left, so we'll just do questions. And if you are interested in this topic, we'll be in this room after the lunch as well, and we'll have plenty of time for more questions. So are there any questions?
Thank you. This is actually a question for you, Artur. In one of your first slides, you mentioned bSDD as an implementation of ISO 12006 and also 23386 and 7. Could you just give us some words on the implementation of 23386 and 7?
Yes. Okay. Thank you for this question. Indeed, we based bSDD on those standards, and we have mapping in our documentation how bSDD maps to them. We don't implement all of the features described there because the standard is bigger than bSDD. So we don't describe the whole workflow of how do you invent and agree on properties. We don't have the whole management system. We have just a place to distribute the result of the work with versioning, with all of those aspects described in the ISO. But we also added some additional restrictions to make it simpler for both users to use and for software implementation to be able to interpret the data. So we support those ISO, but we describe in our documentation how to map it. So thank you.
Hi, I'm Vanessa. My question is for Giulia and also for Artur. I see in Giulia's presentation that she's got an information map. So you've taken your IFC and you've mapped that in the information map, which you then use a script to bring into the bSDD environment. What is this information map and why did you create that? And for Artur, my question is this the dictionary, the custom dictionary that you were referring to bring that into the bSDD environment?
Okay. So the information map is the name that we gave the RFI UML data model, which is basically a data model of all their assets with the structure that I showed you before. And to be able to transfer that to the bSDD, we analyzed the JSON structure that is on the documentation, and we noticed that some terms and some parts of the structure of the two data models was different. So with that script, we basically were mapping the different parts of the data model, of the two data models, to be able to, let's say, translate in a way the UML RFI model to the JSON one for the bSDD. So for example, in the RFI UML data model, we have some classes, which are the assets, and then they have attributes, tags with different names. Whereas, for example, like the asset name is called alias for RFI, and it's called name for the bSDD structure. And we needed to match that so that the script could automatically transform in JSON the information that we had in UML. I don't know if I'm replying to your question with that. So the script was just to export the UML in JSON, basically, to transfer it.
So the information map is a UML.
Yes, it's a UML model. Yes. It's just called information map because they needed a name for the data model. But it's the organization data model with all their assets, basically.
So what's a UML model? Is it like a BIM model? Or is it like an Excel document? Or is it a text file?
Okay, that's a question that requires a lot of explanation. So it's a way to model your information based on objects represented as, like object types represented as classes, more or less. So UML is a language, basically, that you use to represent your information with a, how to say this, with a conceptual map, let's say. So I have, for example, my door, it's a class with properties and it's related maybe to another element that could be a type of door with different information. And the UML is this language that basically allows you to represent that in a visual way and also in a not visual way. I don't know how to say this in English.
Yeah. UML is more generic, and bSDD has very strict format how you need to deliver it. So yeah, and you ask if this was custom dictionary. Yes, it was like the effort was started before they thought about bSDD, right? So you first started with the conceptual model done in UML, and then later, bSDD was one of the solutions to implement that in reality, right?
Right. It's kind of like having a internal organizational dictionary that needed to be somehow spread to a wider audience, but the wider audience is using IFC. So to do that, you need to map it and also to let them be able to read your dictionary and navigate it. We are using the bSDD because it's an open BIM service that anybody can access. So let's say if I ask in a contract a designer to model a railway with, I don't know, the sleeper, the rail, and all the other elements, I will ask them to look at the bSDD to know what the definition of that object is, what properties I need that are standard for that object, but also to tell them, hey, yes, this is an IFC rail, but I want you to call it in the model with my Italian name because my people will not understand the term IFC rail. My people will understand the term binario. I don't know if I'm making sense. Yeah.
Yeah, and in IFC, this will be both. So that will be machine interpretable part will say IFC rail, but it will have a class and it could have a second class as well. So yeah, I think we have time for one more or two more questions. Mirbek?
Hello, everybody. I have a question to Artur. You, in your presentation, mentioned implementations, bSDD implementation, API implementations, and one of them you mentioned Revit.
Yes, I said prototype.
Prototypes,
clearly,
yeah. Of course, everyone, including our working groups, our members, they're glad to see SketchUp as an option, but of course, there should be further implementations. Of course, especially for Revit, everyone who works with Revit, they were asking several times when that will be available. Even as a prototype, everyone wants to see them. Yeah. That's a direct question. When?
Thank you. And yeah, I will forward this question to the corridor because it's not up to me. It's not up to us. But I know that there are efforts on a third-party plugin to Revit and both considerations to make native Revit support. But I have no idea on the timeline for that. But you can contact directly if you want. So thanks, Mirbek. Any other question?
I have a similar question then to the Finnish guy. Sorry, not
Niki.
recalling your name. The same question when you discussed with the software vendors, NovaPoint and Civil 3D. How do you see any time plan for them to implement this?
No, I can't. They didn't promise, and I can't promise for them any timelines. But maybe the thing is that they were very promised about this BSD connection. But as mentioned in the presentation, they hesitate. Before this, there is a wider user base for the BSDD or the need.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
Yeah, this is, yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Niki. Thank you, Giulia.
Thank
you,
you.
Tiina. And yeah, without further ado, yeah, we welcome you to lunch. And if you're interested, please come again after lunch. And we will have 2 smaller sessions. One will be 45 minutes on business general updates to bSDD, and the second one will be only technical updates. So if you're interested in just one of those 2, you can skip the other one. Thank you so much.